participation. I do have one blue card. Citizens wishing to address the board on agenda and non-agenda items for action who are signed in by 7:10 by submitting a blue card to the secretary may speak at this time. The board may not be in a position to respond to non-agenda items, therefore speakers should not anticipate an immediate response to their comments or questions. For the benefit of all concerned, do not mention the names of students or school district employees. Please keep your comments as brief as possible. The board president reserves the right to limit times. This is a non-agenda item. It's on transparency and the drug issues in our schools. I guess he's got on here two separate topics. Mr. Adel Mozip.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The first issue, as Trustee Petrikoff mentioned, is transparency, and I'd like to speak to you, and I understand that I would not get a response, but also the public would get to know more about the transparency here we have at the district. I filed some FOIAs, which is the Freedom of Information Act requests for the district for some emails, public emails between the districts regarding the vacancy and the previous appointment. I did receive a response from communications, and the response, which I can give you, I don't know if you have one of them, did state the charges that it would be charged to get those emails. So I would read it here. To review 75 emails containing the word vacancy, we estimate it would cost about 6.5 hours at a total of $636. So that's the rate of $97 per hour. So there was a lot of going back and forth about this rate, and it was saying that in another response that the lowest person being paid is hired to do these collection of the requests and to give us the information, but it's the total compensation. Now, the federal U.S. Department of Education mentioned that these kind of requests should be actually the first 100 pages should be free, and they should not be that much and that substantial. You can also check their website, and they did mention local districts. So it's not for the U.S. Department of Education, as I got the response. It was saying that the guidelines state that they're not for local district, but rather the U.S. Department of Education. But it did say in that document that this is follows for the local districts. And as I know, we do follow state law here, but we also follow the federal law. And the federal law says that most of the first 100 pages should be free of charge. So, and it speaks large to the transparency that we have here at the school district. If somebody wants information and you say you are transparent, you are an open book, and I go ask for information, and then I would have to pay a substantial amount of my paycheck just to view that information, that is clearly not transparent in my opinion. The other issue, I know I only have 3 minutes, that I'd like to speak to, and hopefully we can get more, not just the conversation, but some actions taken. And we're about to start the school, and high schools are about to resume, and middle schools. And you're aware of the drug issues that we have as a national problem. It's a national epidemic. And especially here in Dearborn recently, if you've been reading the news about the doctor who was arrested by the state police for giving painkillers like Skittles, more than almost 500,000. So I'd say, I spoke with the superintendent about the drug issues. He does realize it's a problem. We kind of differ on how big the problem is in our schools. But I believe that when we have many students who are surveyed and they say they are on drugs, we cannot just turn the blind eye. I believe that the board must direct the superintendent and ask that there is a committee or there is some task force to make sure that laws are being enforced and that drugs in our schools have no place. We've had too many students and alums who have overdosed in Dearborn, and that's tragic, that's unfortunate. We have also some, I've received many calls from parents that tell me I have to speak about this issue or I have to be their advocate, since their own children are either on drugs or they're being pressured to have drugs. And there are those groups in schools who would act like a gang and try to get these students into abusing those drugs. So I hope that the board makes a conscious decision on making sure we're putting funds, and making sure that we're tackling this problem and we're proactive about it, and that we involve whatever we need to involve, as far as the police or the specialists, but more of how do we treat these students who are already hooked on it and prevent the others from getting it. So thank you very much for your attendance, and I hope to hear some correspondence. Thanks.
Trustee Petrikov.
Mr. Mozip, just to reaffirm, I spoke at the last board meeting with the City Relations Subcommittee meeting we just had with the mayor and the police chief. We actually, this was a topic of our conversation. The chief is going after a grant, and we are planning on putting together a task force that combines a partnership with the city police
good to hear.
department and the school district. So we've been working on this problem. We're aware of the issues, and we're very much moving forward with something.
I hope also it's been taken to the schools, like, for example, those parents, there has to be zero tolerance for dealers who are inside the schools, whether they're students or outside. And I know it's something that the school unfortunately has to deal with, because it's a huge distraction, and obviously it's something that is major. It will have a lot of students drop out, many issues from drug abuse. So I'm glad that's being taken.
Yes, yeah, we are working on it.
Thank you.
And we have a meeting set
Dr.
up too.
Malika, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh. No, I was just going to say we have a meeting set up from the City Relations
Right.
Committee with the chief who wants to partner in looking for grant opportunities.
And also Henry Ford College. We're trying to partner with all of our resources.
Trustee Barry.
On the first issue that Mr. Mozip spoke about, not too long ago, somebody asked me of a copy of a report that I spoke on. I said, no, that's confidential information. I guess the question would be, are reports foilable? I wasn't sure. I told that person to call
Sure.
the district and find out. but-
So we do have to follow state law with FOIA requests, and we have the entire policy. David Mustin oversees it, but everything is on the website. It's there. It actually references the state law. Reports are, but there's legally confidential information
Of
that has
course.
to be redacted, and that's why when you have employees that it does, for example, if you want to look through a lot of information, that's a lot of manpower hours. Kind of in response, and that's why, because there's student information, there's personnel information, there's all sorts of things. So when you're dealing with student discipline, you're dealing with identifiable information. So that's where there has to be a review through that. But technically, any kind of documents, yes, could be FOIA'd, but information will be redacted that is legally protected under student FERPA rights, and or personnel rights, where we
I was gonna say
redact names.
employee, yeah.
Yeah, employee rights and personnel rights as well.
And who determines the cost of all that work?
And David, maybe you could speak, isn't it the lowest possible employee that could do that? When you have high-level confidential student information and or information personnel, only certain people can access that. That's why it's the higher price.
Correct.
But we're supposed to go with the lowest level so that we keep it cost effective. But when you're going through information where there is that kind of sensitive information,
level.
it's at a higher level. It's at a high level. It's at an executive director level.
Well, and most of the documents, I think a lot of documents are posted online anyways. All the documents for our meetings are posted in advance, our agenda, and
Minutes.
everything is taped. So most of the stuff is FOIA-able, or it's already in the public sphere anyway, so.
Well, a lot of,
All right, quickly.
could I just make a comment?
Wait a
though?
minute then,
Just
wait
to-
for Dr. Maleko, yes, please.
A lot of times we get a FOIA request, sometimes not even in the local community, it could be a state group or even out of state, and we say it's here, so what we do is we just email them the link. There's no cost to it. We say it's already on our website. Here's the link to that information. We try to be as transparent as possible. But again, when there's student confidential information, we will do everything we have to protect the privacy.
And that's federal.
Yeah.
Just quickly, I didn't read the last sentence. It says the cost to review all 2,250 emails between trustees would total in excess of $18,000. So that's our rate. If each email would be $8. That's the rate to review each email. Now, this again, federal law states that redaction charges should not be charged to the person requesting those information. So, just telling you what I know, what I read about state law and federal law. So, that's for you to review.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next item?
Approval of minutes. Approval of minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Dr. Maleko reminded me